What's good, everybody? Welcome to another video. Ever wondered what it would look like to live in a world of the Pokemon anime? Like, think about it. Living in a world where you have to battle so many amazing trainers and exploring the fascinating cities. And as well as encountering the magical Pokemon. Well, I do a lot. For someone that has been a Pokemon fan since forever and has grew up with Pokemon, I've always wondered what my journey would look like if I was in the Pokemon anime. So I made myself rules for this as well, consisting of what my team will be like, what region I'll hail from, my profession, which includes my goals, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll explain the rules. So you can have up to 3 stars at max. Eevee and Pikachu don't count though. No legendaries, mythicals, or ultra beasts. Come on, let's not make ourselves OP. 3, 1 pseudo legendary and 1 shiny is allowed. The pseudo legendary can't be a shiny if that's what you want. And you can also have up to 3 additional Pokemon to rotate with. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But I'll also put the rules in the description, just in case. So we're starting off with regions. So realistically, I could be either from Unova or Alola, as they're both regions based on parts of the United States, which is where I'm from. However, I'm not really a fan of those regions at all. Like, seriously, man. But I decided to base it around the first game I've ever played, being Fire Red. That being said, the region I'll hail from is Kanto. So I'll be starting my journey around the same time Ash and Gary did. Except that we all know this, Ash overslept. So Gary and I were the first trainers to enter Oak's lab. When I do enter Professor Oak's lab, I do see Professor Oak, but also his grandson, Gary Oak, which is one of my rivals since we both were babies. He'll always brag that he was always 1 step ahead of everyone, and he'll become the strongest Pokemon trainer in the world, and he'll always be making fun of someone who loses to him. So I chose Bulbasaur to be my starter as a reference to when I first played Fire Red. I picked Bulbasaur as my starter. And for the Pokemon anime, Gary chose Squirtle, considering that's his Blastoise he used against Ash. So moving on to what my profession is, what my goals will be based on. Okay, so as stated before, I'll be from the Kanto region, from Pallet Town. So I start off as a Pokemon trainer, and my goal is to become a Pokemon master. So I would collect all the Kanto gym badges, take on the Indigo Plateau Conference. And yes, this was around the time Ash and Gary participated. I never got the chance to battle Ash, as Charizard never obeyed him, which cost him the tournament. So I battled Gary in the finals and won, and my next step was to take on the Elite Four. And then when I did challenge the Elite Four, I became a Kanto champion. So the first champion was actually Blue, but when Blue was not in the gym, that's when Team Rocket took over the Viridian City's gym again. Gary, Ash, and I took on Team Rocket, and when Team Rocket was blasting off, yet again, we got our Earth badge. So that's how I became a Kanto champion. After years and years of defending my title of the Kanto champion, my recent challenger was Gary Oak. He wanted to test my strength. After beating Gary again, he asked me a very conflicting question. Am I a Pokemon master yet? How does it feel to become a Kanto champion? And I answered that I was scared all the time. Scared that I've reached my limit and I won't be able to grow anymore. When I did answer that, he told me I could travel through other regions, as there are other strong trainers as well. When he gave me that suggestion, I decided to take it. However, before I decided to do that, he also told me there is this one legendary trainer said to be the strongest trainer in the world. He is also from Pallet Town, just like all of us. When he did tell me this, I decided to test my strength against him. So I went to Mount Silver trying to meet up with Red. And when I battled him, things did not go so well. The only Pokemon I took out was his Snorlax. But after that, he sent out his legendary Charizard, who had this unknown power called Mega Evolution. I was a bit disappointed about my loss, but I was happy at the same time, as there are much stronger opponents out there. So I decided to travel through Sinnoh and take on the league there as well. So then I took a plane there and landed in Twinleaf Town. That's where I started my Sinnoh journey. So just like my journey in Kanto, most of my journey in Sinnoh would be similar, except that I spent most of my time in Sinnoh trying to surpass the Sinnoh champion, Cynthia. So my starter in Sinnoh was actually Piplup, as a reference to when I played both Pokemon Pearl and Pokemon Shining Pearl, Piplup was my starter. So after I collect all of my badges in Sinnoh, my intention was to enter the Lilycove Conference, the first ever Lilycove Conference. And after years of training in Sinnoh, I finally won the first ever Lilycove Conference. And my next step is to challenge the Elite Four and battle the current champion, Cynthia. And once I beat the Elite Four, you know they say, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. And I've lost to Cynthia, and I became disappointed, and I wanted to train until I surpassed Cynthia, which I never ended up doing. And after I constantly lost to Cynthia, I was alone, depressed, thinking, what am I doing wrong? But then later on, I realized that I kept getting the title of Kanto champion stuck in my head, and I could take on anything. But I was worried that people would see me as the weakest champion ever. And then later on, I wanted to apologize to my team for pushing him so hard. And then when I faced Cynthia again, I didn't beat her. However, it ended up in a draw between her Garchomp and my Infernape. After the battle, she praised me for getting stronger and realizing those errors I've made after I had to take so many losses from her. She's basically telling me that I have a lot of potential to become a very strong opponent. After I took my leave, something came to my mind, and I decided to travel through Kalos to learn more about Mega Evolution. Ever since I battled Red's Mega Charizard X back in Mount Silver, I asked myself, am I really capable of Mega Evolution? What do I need to do to master it? So I spent all of my training in Kalos to master Mega Evolution. So I got a Charmander. I never got any of the Kalos starters. However, the first wild Pokemon I encountered was a Charmander. And when I took it to Professor Sycamore, he gave me a Charizard X and a Charizard Y. However, Charmander didn't want any of those when it evolved in a Charizard. It was capable of the Battle Bond phenomenon, apparently. I thought Ash was the only one that did that. And when I took part in the Lumiose conference after I got all of my 8 gym badges from the Kalos region, things did not go so well. I managed to go to top 8, however, Ash wiped the floor with me with his Ash Greninja. He even swept my team. So it left me depressed yet again. These losses had me thinking, do these losses define how weak I am as a trainer? Am I really champion level? I wanted to find out by entering that World Coordination Series. So I decided to fly to the Galar region. I wanted to find out, am I strong enough to take on the strongest trainers in the world? Will I reach Red? Will I reach Leon? Most of all, will I reach Cynthia? Just find out next time as the journey continues. So with my story planned, I can finally make my Pokemon team. First up, we have Venusaur, a reference to my first ever Pokemon in my first ever game being Bulbasaur, as I mentioned before. It'll be my Gigantamax form as I've played Isle of Armor, and that's when Gigantamax, Venusaur, and Blastoise were introduced. So I chose Venusaur. Second up, we have Garchomp, and this will be my shiny and my pseudo legendary. This was a reference to when I played Shining Pearl, I hunted Gibble using the pseudo method. And this will be one of my Pokemon that has the potential to Mega Evolve. Third, we have Lucario. This was a Pokemon that has been abandoned from its original trainer when I was in the Sinnoh region. And it is red because it's a very special Lucario. This is a reference to when I played Shining Pearl. I got it from an egg, which was a Riolu, and I got it from Riley. In fourth, we have Charizard, and this Pokemon will be the Battle Bond phenomenon it experienced when I was in Kalos. I caught it as a little Charmander. And this is a reference to when I played Pokemon X, I chose Charmander as my Kanto starter. Overall, Charizard is one of my favorite Pokemon anyway, so why not have it on this team? In fifth, we have Espeon. This was the Eevee I've caught in Kanto. And when I was trying to defend my title as Kanto champion, Eevee later evolved into Espeon after defeating a challenger, and this was due to friendship at daytime. This was a reference to when I played Pokemon Yellow, and I decided not to evolve the Eevee I got in Celadon City, and in later generations I wanted for it to evolve into Espeon, so there it goes. Finally, we have Pikachu as a reference to Let's Go Pikachu, and I use it in most of my playthroughs. And Let's Go Pikachu, it was one of my favorite games of all time. For the 3 additional Pokemon I could rotate with, first we have Togekiss as I hatched it from an egg, but in the game, I caught it in the Grand Underground in Shining Pearl. It really helped me. And we have Blaziken, who can undergo Mega Evolution. I got it from Omega Ruby, and let's just say it's the Kalos region, because we did see it in the anime as well. Finally, we have Poliwrath. It also helped me through my Kanto journey.